So this is Film Thread, and they're talking to a WGA screenwriter. So I was curious to see what they have to say about this. So let's check it
From
out.
the WGA, that is the Writers Guild of America, Jim
So this is Film
Agnew.
Thread.
Jim,
Hey,
dude,
John. How's it going? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you perfect. How's it going?
Good. Just to clarify, I'm not with the WJ, but I'm a member of the WGA.
Right. You're not officially representing the WGA. You are
No.
a member. You're a screenwriter, a WGA screenwriter. We've been
All right. Well, before we get into this, Film Thread has been doing like a series of. It's been doing an article with what's going on at Disney. So like this guy right here. All right, this is Alan Ing. He went to go see Wish. He didn't really like it too much, and in his review, he broke it down like why it was a bad movie, and it was Disney not being able to make Disney anymore. So that kicked off a whole different thing where he's talking about like he got a lot of DMs from former and current Disney employees saying how bad everything is. So they're going to get into the DE. This is diversity, inclusion. Diversity, inclusion. What the hell does the E stand for? Oh, that's inclusion. Oh, equity, diversity, equity, inclusion. I don't know what the A stands for. So maybe he'll let us know what the A stands for.
covering a lot of stuff happening within the WGA. A lot of these DEI and DEIA rules. And I got to ask, like right off the bat, and I'm going to bring up some stories and have you comment on it. And we'll also take your questions and comments as well for the 2,000 plus people that are currently watching. Smash that like button. What do you think about these rules in general in a very short period of time? Like the last, I don't know, it hasn't even been 10 years, but the last more than 5 years, there's been a huge, I believe, an overreach from the human resources department to creatives. The human resources department that you pointed out, we had a text exchange, said the HR department that probably has no experience in entertainment. What are your general thoughts about this?
Yeah, I think the big reason a lot of this has happened is because TV became so big and streamers. And those are obviously corporate entities. So everybody's got their fingers in everything. And the last thing, look, I've made quite a few films. It's very hard to make a really great film. This one producer I know says like a movie like Swingers is great because every single person involved hit a home run. For the lack of funds they had, Doug Liman hit a home run. The actors hit a home run. The writers hit a home run. That's the only way you can make a good movie. So it's already stacked against you to try to make a good film or TV show. So then when you get, all this kind of like white noise coming from all these places, creatively, and then from people who don't know anything about filmmaking, we talked about that Amazon stuff, and there's a whole section about how you describe a character in a script. Everybody in the film industry who actually makes films and TV shows doesn't give a shit what it says. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to curse. Doesn't care what it says in that parenthetical after the character.
Okay, so it's diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. When you are trying to create something, it's a different headspace that you're in where you're open to a lot of different things. So as a creative individual doesn't see the world in the same way as a non-creative person does. So I don't know, for me, it feels more like a river. It's like you're just kind of floating in the river and whatever comes to you, like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it just kind of flows. So there's a structure, but it's not really structured. It's like it's weird how to describe this. It's like when I see a sunset and you see how the lighting is going, and then you can see how, all right, so this can apply to this and the colors, and so it's just a different way of seeing that. The problem is typically those type of people aren't very good at business, like because it's just the way that we kind of see stuff. So you get the guy who is about business and is structured. It's like this, and this. It's like this is they're looking at it from selling a widget. So you sell a widget the exact same way over and over and over and over again. in order to make that work the best, you create a structure so that allows you to be able to mass produce the widget as best as possible. So when you take someone who looks at the world like that and you put them in charge of floaty, see the world and different color type people, it doesn't really work that well because that's not because the structured thing is like, yes, you need structure, but it's kind of different in order for you to make a movie. And as he described, stuff like a lot of stuff has to work right for it to work. But if you cut down on the creatism, you can not see happy accidents. And like this case in point, there's a song by War where they're when they were recording it, and I've talked about this before. They were recording the song, and the drummer he accidentally played the song on the upbeat, right? So instead of the downbeat, boom, he played it like upbeat. So it changed the feel. No, it changed the feel of the song. So the rest of the people who were playing the song with him, they just started playing along with his new feel, and it became a smash hit. And even though it was an accident for the drummer, it became a hit song. And you only found that because of just the way that creative people do stuff. Like in terms of selling a widget, you would have stopped the drummer and you would have made the drummer do it correctly. It's like, no, that's not right. Instead of being in the moment, it's like, and just going, just like the thing about the river. It's like you just go where it goes, and that's where it goes. But if you are structured, then you don't do that. You just like you have to go this way. So, and that's the people who are in charge of all of this stuff. These people get told that, well, we need to push this, we need to push this, we need to do this. So it's like they put limits on the person who's trying to make a thing, and then when those people who don't want to go along with the program, they get ushered out of the building. And this is kind of the state of where we're at right now. But that's my little 2 cents. So let's go back to this.
No one sticks to that. That's like the most unimportant thing in the world. And just to give you a few, I guess back to your question is, I don't know where this is coming from, but it's just not adding to making films better or TV shows, which we've all seen. It's
that's what I
more
meant.
fingers in the recipe and more cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, well, it's always like you and this happens on a film set because you've also directed films. You directed an indie sci-fi film. I think we covered it several years ago, and which was great. And it's you're always getting you're getting pieces of advice, and sometimes advice will come from an unlikely place, and sometimes things will change in the casting process. What to me one of the most interesting castings that had a benefit was the movie Night of the Living Dead from 1968 by George Romero.
Yeah.
The lead character was a character in the script just named Ben. He was the smartest guy in the script. He was the guy the audience looked to like what was happening. Not Barbara. She was sort of crazed off her rocker from that experience with the zombie in the beginning of the movie. And George Romero cast an actor named Dwayne Jones. Dwayne Jones happened to be black. He was just the best actor. It's like, well, he's the best actor. He's delivering this stuff. If you remember the 1968 black and white Night of the Living Dead kicked off the zombie genre, wrote all the rules. And everyone on the set asked him, he's talked about this many times, you can look it up. Are you going to rewrite the script? You're going to rewrite the script? Because, you cast a black actor. And he said, nope, not going to rewrite it. Not going to rewrite it at all. And you're missing opportunities to sometimes it's like, but when you explicitly are telling people in the script they must do certain things, this is from Amazon's page. I think a lot of this has to do with the over corporatization of entertainment, which comes from big tech, which every industry that big tech moves into, whether it's hotels or the taxi cab industry, it breaks the industry. It takes 30% for itself and it destroys that industry.
Yeah, because they're selling a widget.
Being dead serious. Look at any industry that big tech chooses, whether it's like food delivery, everything, name it. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, let me just give you an example after we talked about this and looked at this. I was trying to think, how would I...
Oh, before he gets into it, the thing about what he said was, change the script for what? Because it's a black actor. I'm like, okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? Because like that is working off the assumption that all black folks are the same, and that this particular guy is going to act like what this other guy thinks a black person is supposed to act like. It's like, all right, so one, we're not a monolith. They have many black folks who act what the people consider ghetto, and then they have black folks who would act like what people consider white. So again, it's like normal. It's normal behavior. So there's no need to change for specific stuff in the script, because then it becomes pandering. A lot of the stuff, and it goes back to what I was talking earlier about Beyonce, is authenticity. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, is authenticity. Is like for you to come across as being authentic in what you're talking about, what you're doing, what you're telling, what you're writing, what you're showing, what you're whatever. It's like you can have your own particular point of view, because we are all individuals and we should act like individuals, because that's what we are. We're not a group. I'm not the exact same as if I'm standing next to another black dude. We're not the same. We didn't grow up the same. We didn't grow up in the same household. We're going to see the world in differently. Again, that's my little 2 cents.
Pitch a TV show according to this whole guideline that's here. We see that Amazon and MGM are using. How would I pitch a film about a young, sexy FBI agent who gets help from an older man to solve the case, and the bad guy and the serial killer is a transsexual who was denied being, transitioned? How would I pitch that? It wouldn't exist under these rules. And you know what movie I just talked about? Silence of the Lambs. There you go.
Oh, that's right. That's effectively Silence of the Lambs. So this is the thing that bugs me, is when I'm reading through this and people, it's this now. I don't know. Do you know this? That we did a video on this, Jim, and Elon Musk tweeted out the video.
No, I do not know that.
No. Race and ethnicity, killing creative voices, community is best. This is something that's written by white people. And like, are they shown in connection to violence, either as perpetrators of victims, particularly gang violence? Are they linked to storylines that focus on drugs, addiction, and sexual promiscuity? Are they shown as member of the family unit in ways that do not center on broken homes, single parents, and other aspects of family life that foreground difficulty rather than joy? What is this? Okay, stereo biases. Okay, this is a lot of black people's reality. So you shouldn't just tell stories. And this, I would just get in with, I had a discussion with someone today about like BET, because BET just shows you one particular aspect of blackness. So that, which is not true. And this is denying the other aspect of blackness. So it's like everybody is an individual who has their own individual life. So this is aspects of, because there was gang violence. Now I lived in a 2-parent household. The part of town where I lived at, it was very nice, but we were surrounded by gang violence. So you can tell a story about my childhood that on a peripheral, there's gang violence and there's instances of stuff happening, but you can still tell a nice story of a functional family in that setting. So this basically, you don't get Boys in the Hood, and there's a lot of stories that you won't be able to tell because some idiot wrote this. I think that's what he's getting at, is there are plenty of stories. If you actually went through this little checklist, you wouldn't be able to tell this story. Like, I don't understand why they do stuff like this. It's like they think that they're helping, but they're not. So instead of writing stories where you can tell folklore and all this other stuff, because there's plenty of that, you don't tell any of those types of stories. So what you do is you tell the same stories about European stuff. You just stick black people in it and think that you're doing something, but you never go out and tell other stories. There are plenty of, like, I remember buying books with Native American stories and all that stuff in it. Do they tell any of those stories? No, none of these stories. They just do the same stuff over and over, as mostly European stories. They just interject brown people in them. So you got like Black Vikings for some reason. Like you did Shaka Zulu a long time ago. Why don't you just redo that? Or find some other stories from Africa to tell?
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, we should have talked about it at the top, but yeah, Elon Musk
Yeah, this is
tweeted out this
ridiculous.
video, the video that Alan and I did about this, what we're looking at right now. What it tells you is it's creating all these new terrible tropes. I saw the movie ISS, International Space Station, and it stars, the protagonist is a young Black lesbian woman who, you know, by her identity, nothing is going to happen to her. And I was right. She, of course, survives. Spoiler alert, I ruined the movie for you. But yeah, it's
that's why this
unbelievable
movie
here.
sucked.
Race and ethnicity, it goes through different types for Black characters. For Hispanic, they're still using that term.
Oh my God,
Latinx. I don't know
Latinx.
any Hispanic friends of
hate
mine that like that term. They hate it.
Well, here's
for-
here's the big problem though with this. It's these people who created this.
Yeah, this was written by white people because Hispanics hate Latinx. I mean, like, just they see it as a slur, and they have said this over and over again, and these people just completely ignored that.
Think that just describing a character is a character. They don't even understand the medium. It's a visual medium. It's not how they're described on a page. It's how what they do. You know, for example, I decided to look up a few other movies. You know, Marion Ravenwood is described as beautiful, which you can't do here. But that's not what we look at when we see the movie. We see that she gets drunk when we first meet her, where she's doing shots. She punches Andy, she fights. She does all this stuff in the first 5 minutes. That's the character, not what was said on the page of a document that's basically an internal document. These people are so caught up in like things that don't matter.
Yeah, look at, I didn't realize Mina was a thing. That's Middle Eastern / North African characters. Mina. Are they shown in violent situations, especially when linked to terrorism or religious extremism?
See, that's another thing. They keep making up terms. they keep making up terms for other people, like Latinx, Mina, BIPOC. It's like you just decide to start calling other, like, your life is whatever it is so much that you just up and decide to just, this is racist. How is this not racist? You just decide to call other people by other things just because you want to call them that. This is very racist, and most of these liberal people are.
Extremism? Are they shown at the extremes of wealth, either as royalty, sheiks, or business tycoons, or at the other end of the spectrum, in roles associated with poverty or as refugees? By the way, all those things exist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All those
You know,
things
there's
are
my friend says that
actually-
they're yeah,
Sorry,
my friend says they're
This
they're
is
in
a
sense,
denial of reality.
anglicizing ethnic characters by
Oh.
taking away what makes their culture unique. You now made them Anglo.
Yeah,
You know,
you're
can't
making
have-
everybody
you
white.
you can't insist that a character or an actor do an accent, and so they have to basically do an Anglo accent, a white accent.
Yeah, you're making
And
everybody
to me,
white.
that just right there, you're working backwards. From what
Yeah,
you're
you
trying to
know,
accomplish.
last night too, when we talked about doing this, I was like, look, I'll think of a few films that would be totally blown out of the water by these kind of rules, would never even get started, right? So I looked at, you know, Tarantino's Cinema Speculation, which everybody should read, and every single movie and every chapter he talks about would not get past go on this list. Every single one. Bullet, you know, Rolling Thunder, Taxi Driver, Getaway. Let's just get rid of all those movies. They can't be made anymore. They
Okay. Per this list, can you make Blazing Saddles? I don't think you can.
don't exist. You know, and then I kind of went on a tangent, started thinking, you know, V for Vendetta you can't do, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, the Godfather films, you know, Fight Club, because you're talking about somebody with a disability. It just goes on and on and on.
And this is why movies suck.
It's and we're gonna talk. We're gonna pivot to other things related, but this is so specific. Who put this much? I don't know who wrote this original document, which I assume gets amended every once in a while to whatever new, you know, language is being used. But this playbook is disgusting, and this needs to be rejected by the industry. Is people like yourself,
Dude, this
people
is
who
so
are in
stupid.
the trenches, writing screenplays, writing the stories, need to push back against this and say, you know what? We appreciate the suggestions. We're not going to listen to it because, as you pointed out in our original exchange when I sent this to you, what are the qualifications of these people? You pointed out that like one of the women from the HR department used to work at Caterpillar, which is construction vehicles in HR. What does she know about story? Does she know who Joseph Campbell is? Has she even read the Sid Field book on screenwriting? Does she know about like different entertainment demographics, like different things? They just do, even different ages.
This is
There
very
are so
stupid.
these rules will, if these rules are adhered to, it's going to destroy the industry, is my thought.
Or it already is. I mean, listen, I can talk about it because at the moment, for various reasons, which you can see, I'm not going to be hired by Amazon or MGM anytime soon.
Why are you not going to be hired,
why not?
Jim? Why are you not going to be
He's
hired?
talented.
Because he's white. The fact that they call this storytelling is hilarious. Yeah, and this is like what I was saying before. The difference between the way a creative person thinks and a non-creative person thinks is this limits you. It's like humor is, there's a old adage, well, it's not old, but it's a thing that says that the left can't meme. It's like the reason why they can't meme is because humor can be mean. You can take whatever joke that you told about somebody, depending on how they take it, it can come across as being mean. It's like you may not be trying to be mean, you might be trying to just be funny, and so but somebody can take it that way. So so all this stuff, it's like that is why those folks who do these kind of things, they're not funny. They're not like they're not heroic. They're not, because they just don't know how to be that.
Because I'm a white straight male. Let's just get that out there. That's no secret. But the thing is, it goes deeper too. It's like it's a complete lack of understanding of how the film industry works, how you make films, because there's also a section in production where they basically say that a line producer should not use their crew they always use. They should expand out, hire new people. That's basically the line producer's job, to have an experienced crew come in and knock a movie out. If you told me to like bring in I've produced over a dozen films. If you told me to bring in half my crew as new people, and I'm responsible for $60,000, $70,000 or more a day we're spending, I can't on the job train a bunch of new people. That's
something. Look, Martin Scorsese, right? He's worked with a lot of the same people. He's worked with De Niro. He's worked with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's worked with Thelma Schoonmaker, his editor, to dictate these rules and say you got to mix it up. Sure, if Wally Pfister's not available, Christopher Nolan could hire a different director of photography. Or if Hans Zimmer isn't available, he'll get someone else for Oppenheimer to do the score, right? Hans Zimmer really wanted to do Dune, which is why he wasn't able to work on Oppenheimer, whatever. But there is a trust. When you develop that trust, you work with different people that you like to work with in a creative space, because $60,000 a day, that's crazy.
That's not an indie film. That's like a $2 million film you're spending that, per production day. So it's like you hire some young kids because you have to, or you're forced to, who don't know how to do gags, and they can't blow a little charge on a car window, to simulate a gunshot, and you're sitting there for 4 hours. You just wasted a third of your whole day. So that's $20,000, but you gave somebody a new shot, So that's I find even more insane than it's all pretty insane. I mean, it's just, no one's going to go, all movies do not fit into all things. If somebody wants to go write a Black lesbian love story, and that's their perspective, their point of view, they don't need all these rules. They're going to write that. But when you're writing John Wick 5, you don't need to apply the same rules as some, indie film. They're totally different things. It's like all things are not all things to all people.
You just get a sense that they don't know what it's like to make a movie, or to tell a story or anything.
You think?
That they're sitting on the sidelines, and have no empathy or idea that this is what happens on the set, and this is why, you need reliable people to keep people safe, to keep the story moving on.
One other thing, sorry, I'm getting all fired up, Alan. One other thing is, it also says in this whole outline that you should not describe, women as like girl next door or feisty or things like that. So the casting director won't be like boxed in. There is absolutely no casting director that works at a high level that is going to be like, hey, it says feisty, so I can only bring in feisty Latinos. They're the opposite. They push you more than anyone creatively. And they will come up with so many different options. So it's kind of insulting to casting directors on top of it. It just shows a complete utter lack of understanding how things are made.
Well, it's just annoying that people who've never made a movie tell you how to make a movie. And it's
there's that too.
Yeah.
There's that. We're gonna go to your questions in just a second, but I have one last question for you, Jim, before we go to the chat is on fire with over 2,000 people watching us live at the moment. But one last question. Does Hollywood push back against this? And do people like yourself start to speak out and say, we're not going to be bound by these rules. We're going to think about the audience first before we think about what's required on a corporate level. And are people going to push back and stand up? Or is a thriving indie industry going to emerge from people just getting sick of this? Because there are so many qualified people like you not working right now. And it's disgusting to me that to see this entire industry implode. So do people push back, or does a new industry emerge?
Well, I think, look, people like me, I can push back. I can do pretty much whatever I want. I've still been working last 2 years because I work mostly in indie films. I've sold TV shows. I've written pilots. I've done it all across the board. But my main, bread and butter has always been indie films. They do not care about this stuff. You know how indie films put together? If you write a script that can get Guy Pearce in it, you can get $4 million. It's that simple. It's no one cares about any of this stuff in the indie film world. It's all a math problem, dollars and cents, and then secondarily, you try to be creative with it. But the poor people who came up in TV, which has become so corporate with the streamers and all this stuff is in there. There's so many decent people, qualified people that are not working, can't find jobs because it's just become corporate. It's become weird. It's become DEI. I'm sure they don't want to push up against it. They want to, but they won't publicly, because, people whisper in my ear all the time. They're like, when is this going to end? This is stupid. I can't get a job. I got passed over for this. I'm doing double duty on this TV show because all the young writers are horrible, but we'll see. I think the state of the industry is what's going to change everything. Because what did 800 people get laid off at Paramount yesterday? Hundreds at MGM the other day. So it's like everybody I know who works on the more corporate side is like freaking out. So there's basically not going to be an industry, I think, in 3 or 4 years if it keeps going like this. And the thing is, this is why I speak out, because it's not going to be here anymore. And luckily I'm older now, so I'll be okay without it. But instead of worrying about AI and things like that, we're worried about this.